The next EcomCrew webinar is quickly approaching on May 16th, 2018 at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 11 a.m. Pacific. This is an updated time. We were getting a bunch of complaints from people that 7 p.m. Eastern Time was just not a good time right in the middle of dinner or driving home. So we changed the time to 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. Go to ecomcrew.com/webinar to sign up for free today. This month, we're going to be going over our 2018 Amazon launch strategy, talking about a bunch of stuff that we've never talked about before, and we really hope to see you there on the webinar. For those of you who can't attend, if you sign up, you will get access to the replay for free. So again, go to ecomcrew.com/webinar to sign up today, and now on with the show. This is Mike, and welcome to episode number 144 of the EcomCrew podcast. Just as a reminder, you can go to ecomcrew.com/144 to get to the show notes for this episode. And today, I have my good buddy and partner in crime, Dave Bryant, on the episode with me. We're calling this episode A Train Ride Through Asia. We left Hong Kong, and we were sitting there and talking about everything we've done up that week so far and what we were planning on doing over the next week, and thought it would be a cool time to turn on the microphones and let people have like a little bit of a microcosm of our trip over to Asia. If you've never been to Asia for the Canton Fair, Global Sources, Hong Kong Mega Show, or any of these other trade fairs, or Global Sources Summit, which we also just attended, it'll be neat to just get a behind-the-scenes look at it. Either way, if you've been or not been, I think it's a cool behind-the-scenes look. And we try to do different things on the podcast from time to time, and this is cool. It's unfiltered, just a train ride from Hong Kong to Guangzhou. I hope you guys enjoy this episode.
Welcome to the EcomCrew podcast, hosted by Mike Jackness and Dave Bryant, who together run e-commerce businesses that generate 8 figures annually. Mike and Dave take pride in running a podcast that isn't just fluff, talking about specific products, problems, and real-world solutions. In the words of one of our favorite reviews, this podcast is like a playbook for e-commerce. You can take any episode and spend the next month trying to implement it. So without further ado, here's the EcomCrew.
All right, so we just got on the intercity through train, getting ready to head to Guangzhou, and I have Dave Bryant in the flesh sitting directly to my right. How's it going, man?
Good.
It's been a fun couple of days so far. We're also on the train with my wife, Michelle, and David Cuyer is up on the seat in front of us, but Dave and I decided to sit together. I thought this would be a great time to record a podcast, just talking about what we've done so far since we've been here.
I know, it's going to be interesting. I don't know how this is going to come through on the actual podcast. We got a lot of background noise here. We have a train loading with dozens of people, and on our way to Guangzhou, China.
Yeah, so there's a train called the Intercity Through train that goes directly from downtown Hong Kong and Hong Kong over to Guangzhou. Something I didn't know about the first time I came over here, which is a long story in itself. But the cool thing is we're staying right next to the new train station they're building. Supposedly, this 2.5-hour journey is going to get cut down to like 45 minutes, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny actually. The one time I went over to Guangzhou, I took the metro to Shenzhen, and then for some reason I took the train from Shenzhen to Guangzhou, which it was like a 5-hour journey.
Yeah, so I've done that a few times, and there's a really funny story about that I could tell another time, but I was not expecting what I was getting myself into. It was kind of funny.
Now I'm curious to hear what that story is.
All right, fine, I'll tell you the story. So it turns out, when I first found out about the Intercity Through train, I went from Hong Kong to Guangzhou, and I bought my tickets online. And you go to the train station, pick up your tickets, no problems at all. So doing the same thing in reverse, I bought the tickets online, went to the train station in Guangzhou, and it turns out that you can only pick up your train tickets for this train in Hong Kong. So I was like, wait a second, let me make sure I understand this correctly. You want me to go to back to Hong Kong, pick up my train tickets, come back to Guangzhou so I can use them?
I remember hearing about this during a mastermind that we were doing with a couple other guys. And I remember the frustration that you had.
Yeah. So this is when we coined the phrase, don't ask why. Because that's the only way that you can explain some things in China. It's like, how come I can't pick up the tickets in Guangzhou? Don't ask why. How come I can't get a napkin with my meal in China? Don't ask why. And it's like all these like little idiosyncrasies in China that don't make any sense to us Westerners. So we have the phrase, don't ask why.
Yeah, well, I mean, the train system in Hong Kong, like, even though we're going to China, the train system in Hong Kong is way easier than in China. Because like you mentioned, in China, you buy a ticket online, and you have to go wait in a line, probably about an hour,
right,
at Guangzhou train station. You wait in line, you wait there, then you realize you're in the wrong line.
Yeah.
And then eventually you get your train ticket, and you've missed your train, And yeah, it's just much easier.
So that actually happened to us in Shanghai, because there's nothing in English really in China, which is one of the frustrating things.
They're getting better. They actually have last time I went to a train station, they had English scrolling along the little billboard above the booth.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So we've been here for, I guess it's been about a week. I lose track of time. Everything becomes a blur, but I feel like it's been about a week when we first got here to Hong Kong. It's been a lot of fun. Obviously, like whenever we get together, we always find a way to have fun, especially when we stay out till 5 o'clock in the morning. We'll talk about that night in a little bit here, but we got here, did global sources, which was awesome. Got to get that out of the way first thing because I always still stress about speaking. So I was the second speaker and you were the third speaker.
I know. Well, at least you have a little bit more preparation speaking to a larger audience. That was by far my biggest audience I've spoken to. I kind of joke that my biggest audience before then was a best friend's wedding with 25 friends in the audience.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was definitely nerve-wracking for me, and at least you're a little bit more polished and experienced than me.
Well, I still get the butterflies, but it was a lot of fun. I was looking forward to it because I did kind of a new style with my presentation with some minimalistic slides, so we'll see how that goes.
When Mike says minimalistic, it was very, very minimalistic.
Yeah, well, I had been reading some stuff about presenting, and my old presentations always had lots of bullet points and information in them because I like to over-deliver whenever I do anything and just kind of like overachieve, and I thought that was one of the ways to do it. But after talking to a lot of people, they tell you that you should have less on the slides and less is more, and have people focused on you rather than the slides.
I think it went well, actually. I mean, it definitely puts kind of all the emphasis on the speaker, so you can't fall back on the slides and allow them to I'm watching here as our buddy here is getting the finger pointed at him for no filming on the train.
He got the no, can't take pictures. So that's the end of the video portion of what's content we were hoping to do today. But I guess they don't know that we're recording this, so hopefully we won't get in trouble for that. Not that I don't know that there would be anything wrong with it anyway.
Yeah, but anyways, back to the slides. Yeah, I mean, I think the slides went well, the minimalistic approach, but yeah, it definitely puts all the emphasis on the speaker. You can't fall back on the slides to kind of crack your jokes and educate the audience, so it's all on you.
Yeah, so we were debating about this after the presentation because Global Sources has a ranking system, and I'm looking forward to that coming out. And I was mentioning how devastated I would be if your presentation was ranked higher than mine, but you thought that it was going to be, so we had to put a little. I'm going to put you on the spot here as we're recording. Wait, we should put like a little bet together, like a gentleman's bet on whose presentation's ranked higher.
Well, I don't want to take your money, so.
Oh no, you want to take money? Let's do $1. One US dollar, not a Canadian dollar.
All right, $1. All right,
$1 US. So we're gonna put this on the podcast later. Let people know who had a higher ranked presentation. Megla, hopefully, at Global Sources will be kind enough to share that information with us. I have to rank higher than Dave. It's not the dollar. It's having him have this over me forever and ever.
Well, what was your impression of Global Sources? Because I love the conference. My observation though was that the audience there has gotten a lot more advanced, and I don't know if that's kind of representative of just a conference in general. They're, for whatever reason, they're attracting a more advanced crowd, or if simply the successful e-commerce people are just getting more advanced, kind of upping their game. Just because I noticed, aside from like the product development end, there seems to be a lot more emphasis on just kind of stepping up your game on the marketing end. Big trend I've seen over and over again was off Amazon marketing, but to your Amazon listing.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that I think there was both the level of speakers was better. I have a feeling I won't be the top-rated speaker any longer. Going back to that again, I was lucky enough to get that honor last year, which was awesome because I do work hard at it. But yeah, there was definitely some really smart people there speaking. But I'd asked a question during my talk about how many people were selling back in 2016, which seems like eons ago at this point, and there was a bunch of hands that went up. So I think that, yeah, there's more seasoned people coming to Global Sources and coming to these types of conferences.
Yeah. So what do you make of all of the emphasis on off Amazon traffic?
I think it's the most important thing there is at this point.
Do you think it's the future?
I mean, I think it's the present, honestly. Like, I think that for us, if we did this episode on our 2018 Amazon launch strategy, we'll link to that in the show notes, but this is something we've been working on for quite a while. I think that the era of Me Too products and everybody doing the same thing on Amazon and doing all these black hat backdoor tricks is only going to last so long. If you want to build a long-term defensible business, I think having off Amazon traffic as an asset is incredibly important, and I think that it's more the present than anything at this point than something in the future.
Yeah, we just got handed our arrival cards here for China.
So we've already cleared Hong Kong customs. Now we got to go clear customs in China when we land on the other side here. So and this is the abbreviated card. It doesn't have the departure part, so we have to fill that out again. That's good times.
We'll make our way through that a little bit later. But yeah, getting back to the Amazon, the question about off Amazon traffic, I think there's been kind of this shift. I think 3 or 4 years ago, you basically find a product, stick it on Amazon, you're okay. It's going to sell. Last year or two, definitely a huge emphasis on paid traffic on Amazon. So, if you were not properly utilizing your budgets on Amazon through paid advertising, you weren't going to succeed. And now I don't know if we're there right now. I think we're definitely going there later in the year, but this emphasis to you needing to drive off Amazon traffic to your Amazon listing. Primarily it seems through Facebook, and ideally stuff that you've talked about and I've kind of ignored actually, building a email list off of Amazon.
Yeah, I think it's incredibly important. The little plug for our launching an Amazon course.
That wasn't meant as a plug.
I know it was, but I couldn't. The salesman in me couldn't help do it, even though I'm a horrible salesperson because that's not how I think. But we do have a whole bunch of stuff about that in the course we're releasing soon. So definitely check that out. So from global sources, the thing I also think that is the most enjoyable part of all of it is the people that attend. I mean, I love the conversations that we had with several people. I hope to get a few of them on the podcast, but just some obviously like really smart, really fun people to hang out with, hanging out at Global Sources, along with the speakers, but also the attendees.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the one thing I really love about Global Sources is that you see a lot of entrepreneurs that you won't see kind of in the circuit down in North America. A lot of attendees kind of visit the same trade shows. So over here in Asia, you see a totally different crowd here.
Like this crowd of like expats that live over in Vietnam and Xiaoming, and I mean, really, really neat.
Yeah, it is. A couple trends I've seen. It seems that a lot of entrepreneurs now are migrating from Thailand over to Vietnam and Cambodia. Definitely met probably 2 or 3 entrepreneurs working out of Vietnam. I don't know if that's a money thing and it's just cheaper to live in Vietnam, but for whatever reason, it seems Vietnam's kind of the hot spot now for e-commerce. Yeah,
I definitely want to get there. It'd be my 50th country when I can finally get to another country. I'm stuck at 49.
You haven't been to Vietnam?
I have not been to Vietnam. But over here on this side of the planet, we've been to China, Taiwan, Macau, Hong Kong, and I think I might miss Korea. And that's it so far.
Interesting.
Yeah,
another trend with Vietnam too. We were talking to a couple of the trade show managers at Global Sources, and for whatever reason, it seems to be another big trend that a lot of Chinese manufacturers now are actually sourcing their products in Vietnam, and just for the fact that
especially textile stuff.
Yes, especially textile stuff. Sometimes legally, they're simply having manufacturing done in China and then re-importing it into China.
Yeah, we had that conversation about how a lot of factories are kind of cropping up on the Vietnam border.
Yes.
And I guess they're just like kind of trucking supplies across illegally in the middle of the night or something.
Well, they're not trucking them. They're putting them on a boat and going up the Mekong. Apparently.
Oh, okay. Nice. Interesting. So after Global Sources, the day after that, it was time for our Hong Kong Mastermind, which was a lot of fun. I was really worried when you presented this idea to me that we would have one person show up to this thing, and it would be like this big embarrassment.
We would have had 2, me and you.
Well, besides us, and besides Mike Ketchum, who came as well, but we actually ended up selling this thing out, and had to end up at the very end turn a couple people away, which is pretty flattering, obviously, and it was awesome. We wanted to keep it to 20 people, that way everyone had time to speak and talk about their problems, but let's talk about the mastermind for just a few minutes and what kind of came out of that.
Sure. So we had, like Mike mentioned, 20 people, and we just did kind of your typical mastermind format. Everyone goes around. They get 20 minutes to speak about their problems, and the whole group tries to give a solution for the question asker. So we definitely had a mix kind of people there. We had people, I think, a couple guys who are even more successful than Mike Jackness, and and a lot who are more.
I didn't realize that they even existed.
I know. Who would have known it? And a ton that are way more successful than me. And people just still kind of trying to get the company up and going.
Yeah, we actually had, I think one of the guys there was an 8-figure seller, which was really cool to get some knowledge from him. And then, like I said, there was a couple of people on the other end of the spectrum that hadn't sold anything yet. People of all walks of life in between, but everyone had some really interesting businesses, and a couple of them I think got some good advice of they probably needed to switch paths a little bit because they were maybe going down the wrong road, which I think was really helpful to them. Everyone was really honest with everyone there, and I think that's what all of us need sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that I see with people first starting and they're kind of struggling, and it seems that we come across a lot of students or people who come to, well, this is our first event, but come to our events when they're struggling, is that they find a product that they don't really necessarily have any passion for or attachment to. They're simply doing it because they've heard through the blogs and YouTube that, oh, this is a good product that you should go after. Just seems that people get stuck there trying to do what everybody else is doing to try to recreate their success, and they don't necessarily follow, it's going to sound cheesy, but their heart, I guess.
Yeah, well, I think they're using something like Jungle Scout, which is an amazing tool just to kind of look at numbers only, but like you said, you have to have, there's more than numbers in this business.
Well, I think that's the thing actually with Jungle Scout, and I think this is where these people kind of go about the wrong way. So when I use Jungle Scout, love it, totally recommend it, but I'm not necessarily using Jungle Scout to look for new products. I've already kind of narrowed down a list of 10 or 15 products, and then I'm going on Jungle Scout and saying, okay, how much demand? It's
more of a validation thing.
Yeah, validation, and then also using it to determine how many products you're going to order, that type of thing. But rarely using it to find products.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. So, so from the mastermind, we had offered to buy everyone one round of drinks if you wanted to come over and join us for a beer at 7 p.m. at this really cool bar that we found, or that Dave found. I did nothing, by the way. Thank you very much for lining that whole thing up, because I was just like, this is going to be a waste of time and no one's going to show up. And then you did all the arrangements, and definitely want to thank you for that, because it turned out way better than I could have ever dreamed. That was a whole lot of fun.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it would have been a success regardless, because we've organized private masterminds just with friends before, and they've always turned out fantastic. So I was sure even if we got 2 or 3 people, it would still be beneficial to me, even if not necessarily from a monetary standpoint.
Right.
But, it would have been still fun to have 4 or 5 of us together and do a mastermind thing. But obviously we got 20, and it turned out even better.
Yeah, for sure. So as I was saying, we went from there, got everyone a drink on the house, and we bribed everyone that was there with a second drink if you were nice enough to give us a video testimonial. So a few of them did that, and got a couple drinks. At that point,
we were a little bit tipsy, and the third was on us.
Yeah, we just we forgot to close the tab. But long story short, we ended up getting back to our room. I thought it was earlier than it was, but Dave reminded me that I had sent a text at 4:47 a.m. That the birds were chirping and the sun was coming up, and that was on our way home. So it was a late night.
The problem is, too, Mike doesn't have any kids. I have kids, so we went to bed around 4:30 or 5. But when you have this baby brain, no matter what you do, what time you go to bed, you always wake up at the same time every morning. Yeah. So I went to bed around 5 a.m. and up at 7:30.
I did not have that problem. I was dead to the wind, as they say, or whatever that saying is. So it was a lot of fun. We stayed at that bar for a while, had some food and chit chat, a lot of other really good conversation from there. Then the people that were left, we went and got foot massages, which was cool, because when you're in Asia, at least whenever I'm in Asia, that's the first thing I gravitate towards. It's like $20 for an hour for a foot massage, and it's quite nice. And then from there we went over to another bar. We were in the Guangzhou area, so everything's open really, really late. And then we went to another bar, and the next thing you know, it was we were having a second dinner. And
the bars appeared to be getting shadier and shadier the further we walked.
But I was noticing that less and less, I think, by that point of the evening. So, but just a ton of fun. And from there, we spent the last couple of days just recording more stuff for EcomCrew. We have some neat stuff coming out. We're going to completely change the way that we do all of our course layouts and stuff now, just as kind of a preview of what we talked about while we were here, just kind of when we did our own personal mastermind, when it was Dave and me behind the scenes talking about just what we want the future of EcomCrew to be. And one of the things that we've been getting people talking about is just as we release more courses, it just gets kind of complicated, and what course do I really need? So we're going to be working on a new area that basically is just going to be a monthly membership fee that unlocks everything, and we'll be releasing that here pretty soon, which will be cool. But I think the idea is one fee, you get all the content we've ever done, all the content we ever will do, along with some webinars monthly that'll be private to members of that. And I'm excited to see where that kind of goes from here.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing with Amazon teaching in general, or whatever you want to call it, teaching, blogging, podcasting, just like there's a ton of more competition for products on Amazon, the amount of Amazon information out there is just, the number of competitors is increasing and increasing and increasing. So if you're feeling pressure to kind of up your game selling on Amazon, we're kind of experiencing the same thing, just from a blogging and podcasting standpoint. There's just more pressure on us actually to put out better and better content. So, I think it's better for our listeners and readers, but definitely it's forcing us to kind of up our game. And I think having a more emphasis on continuous content updates and doing it on a more scheduled basis, whether it's weekly or monthly, it's better for students and hopefully better for us too.
Yeah, I always talk about how the podcast motivates me to continue to do better in my business. It's no one wants to look like a fool in front of their peers, although I manage to figure out a way to do that all the time anyway. But you throw out your 2018 goals to everybody, or tell people you're going to do this, that, or the other, and it's hard to come on the podcast and swallow your pride and say I didn't do it. So it definitely keeps me motivated. It's been a lot of fun, but yeah, I mean it's you can't just rest on your laurels and keep on doing the same things, though.
Yeah, and I find, again, this is kind of what the non-monetary benefit we get, just like you mentioned. Just kind of when I do up a blog post or get with you on air with a podcast, kind of talking about my action plan and kind of laying it out step by step forces me to actually have an action plan.
Yeah.
So even if you don't have a blog or a podcast, like actually creating an action plan for yourself going forward, it's amazing when you have an actual step-by-step process that you're planning on executing. It's just much better than doing it by the seat of your pants.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's tens of thousands of people that listen to this now, which is pretty awesome, and don't want to show this in a bad light to them. So it's definitely, I thank all you listeners out there for keeping me motivated. And it's, one of the other things that I've talked about a lot on this podcast is the importance of masterminds and just peer groups in general.
Yep.
Obviously, I don't get to meet a lot of the people that listen to the podcast, but I do meet a lot of the people that listen to the podcast. But having that peer group can really help keep your business on track. I'm in masterminds myself, and the same thing happens. We set goals, and I sure as heck don't want to go in front of them and say I didn't get this done this month, just as much as I don't want to talk about how I didn't get something done on the podcast. So it's something that you need to incorporate into your life if you haven't already done so. E-commerce Fuel Forums is another great place to do that. If you haven't already joined there, I talk about that all the time, because even just posting stuff on the forum is a good way to start meeting people, and they can set you up with a mastermind that can get you started if you haven't done stuff like that. So definitely something really important in business. So
yeah, I mean, and just kind of on that note too, one of the most dynamic and interesting people I met this trip actually was a shout out to David Huss.
Yeah.
And it's funny, he's literally met, I think, every person I've ever met in e-commerce.
It's actually really incredible.
And his network is absolutely huge, to quote Donald Trump.
I think you don't have the accent there. It's like,
I know, my Canadian doesn't come through well there. But he's grown this network of an enormous amount of entrepreneurs, and his business has been going through the roof at sky-high pace. So there's definitely a connection there between how many people you know, how connected you are within the e-commerce or entrepreneurial community, and how fast your business grows.
Couldn't agree more. So, that brings us to this train ride. We're, as we mentioned on the top of this podcast, we're on a train heading 150 kilometers a mile an hour, whatever the heck it is, right now towards the Chinese border, and we'll be in Guangzhou, I guess, around 10 o'clock tonight, grab some sleep, and tomorrow is Canton Fair Phase 2 for us, right?
Yeah, looking forward to it.
So the main reason we're going actually to Canton Fair tomorrow, tomorrow's going to be filled with a lot of filming. We're going to really up our content for the Canton Fair, for EcomCrew, for the podcast, for some tips. We're going to record video content. Dave's going to up some of the written content that he's done. We'll get some pictures. Hopefully, it won't be like this train ride where they tell us we can't take pictures. I hope it's not that type of thing. It'll really kind of put a damper on it. But the Canton Fair is the largest trade fair anywhere in the world. It's 3 phases. It's enormous. I'm going personally less for looking for products this time than I have in the past, and trying to document more, because we've already developed a lot of relationships. So for me, the trip more than anything is documenting stuff for EcomCrew and then meeting with existing factories. Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of how I've approached the Canton Fair for quite a few years. Looking for products a little bit, but more than anything, meeting suppliers, meeting other entrepreneurs. Just it's a great place to kind of network and just maintain existing relationships. Still good for finding products. It's becoming a little bit saturated now with different e-commerce entrepreneurs, different Amazon sellers, but still, if you hunt hard enough, if you know what you're looking for, still a lot of different products and different ideas that you can find there. Yeah, I mean, I think that we've found to this point probably 3/4 or more of our products through the Canton Fair. Yeah. So it's been an incredible resource for us. But again, it's I feel like now we've kind of saturated over. It's been 3 years of going there 2 times a year, and it's basically repeat. You know, the people that are there are the same people on the same exact spot. You kind of remember, like, oh, I remember that guy being in that booth, or that guy being in that booth a lot at a certain point. And that was fine when we were adding more brands, but now that we've kind of settled on our 4 brands, Ice Wraps, Color It, Wild Baby, and Tactical, we've been through all those parts of the fair, and just going back and forth in a serpentine fashion, looking for more things for those brands is starting to run dry a little bit.
Yeah, and when you kind of built a network of suppliers, you can milk those suppliers for quite a bit for sourcing your new products. And sometimes there's no need to find a new supplier to create XYZ product. You can just lean on your current suppliers and use them. It cuts down a lot of the lead time. You have that trust there. You probably get better prices. So that's what I'm doing when I can. I'll lean on my current suppliers to develop my new products. And then when all else fails, come to a show like Canton Fair or another niche trade show that definitely lots of other trade shows in China. Canton Fair, great starting point, but check out some of the other shows too if you can.
Yeah, and speaking of other shows, I mean, we're going to depart and head our separate ways after tomorrow night, so we'll get a full day together at the Canton Fair. I'll get into the other shows in a second, but from there we'll do one more day of Canton Fair Phase 2, and then we're actually, like as I mentioned, we take this opportunity to visit factories. So we have a couple factories to go visit. Dave's going to come with me. The other Dave, Dave 2.0 or Dave 0.5. I don't know which way we should look at that, but the other Dave will be coming with me to go visit a factory. We'll be looking at a sewing factory just to be making some bags and stuff that does things for us. And that's in Shenzhen, which is a city geographically basically right in between Guangzhou, which is where the Canton Fair is, and Hong Kong.
The one that we are going through as we speak,
actually,
crossing over the border.
Yeah. So probably the internet no longer works as of this very moment, which is frustrating probably. But so we'll go to Shenzhen, hang out there for one night and a full day, and then head down to Hong Kong and do the Hong Kong Mega Show.
Yep, and then for me, it's on a plane back to Beijing, see some family up there, and then finally, after 8 months, back home to Vancouver.
Cool. Well, it's been good hanging out with you. We got one more full day. We'll be doing lots of Canton Fair stuff, but hopefully get you back on the podcast again soon.
Yeah, absolutely. And hey, we went 24 minutes and 20 seconds without having security come by and shut us down. So
perfect.
We did good.
All right, well, let's upload this top before they take it from us. All right, man. Thanks for hanging out.
Yep, thanks.
And that's a wrap, folks. I hope you guys enjoyed our 30-minute snippet of a train ride from Hong Kong over to Guangzhou. It was a great trip. I always love seeing Dave. There's never enough time. Dave's getting ready to head back from China finally to Vancouver, which I am looking forward to because we'll finally be on the same time zone, and I won't have to deal with Chinese internet anymore when communicating with them. That's probably the most frustrating thing about being in China specifically, is just dealing with the filtered internet, and sometimes it's better than others, and sometimes it's worse than others, but it's always a problem. And definitely looking forward to having Dave back, not only in the same time zone, but in a way that I can communicate with him without having to listen to pixelated conversations or drop calls or things like that. So hopefully we'll get a lot more done over the next few months with EcomCrew. Just a reminder, ecomcrew.com/144 for the show notes. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love getting comments from our listeners. And until the next episode, everybody, happy selling, and we'll talk to you then.
Thanks for listening to the EcomCrew podcast. Follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/EcomCrew for weekly live recordings of the EcomCrew podcast every Monday. And please do us a favor and leave an honest review on iTunes. It would really help us out. Again, thanks for listening. And until next week, happy selling.